We are more than 130 days past the largest act of international sabotage and economic terrorism of our lifetimes, and still very little action in the media about it. I am, of course, talking about this. These pipelines, the Nord Stream pipelines, did not blow themselves up. I love that little meme. In case you don't know, that's a Jeffrey Epstein air freshener, and it normally reads, "This air freshener did not hang itself." Most of you know what that was referring to, but check this out. Yeah, these pipelines, they did not blow themselves up. So today, we just found out that Seymour Hersh, to me, the most respected investigative journalist of my lifetime. This guy, when he says something, he is right. So look what he just put up in his Substack today. How America took out the Nord Stream pipeline. I would put an S on that. So the New York Times, he writes here, they call it a mystery. It was just a mystery. But the United States did execute a covert sea operation. It was kept secret until now. As you can see, this has been up just a few hours at the time of this recording. And obviously a picture there of the pipelines bubbling away as they released the largest amount of greenhouse-causing methane in a single incident, also in your lifetime. So pretty intense there. So he's isolated it all the way down. That's the U.S. Navy's Diving and Salvage Center in Panama, Florida, was at the center of this thing. He's connecting it to this NATO exercise known as Baltic 22, which was happening out there right in the region where these things finally blew up. And of course, as we've covered now, Germany, probably one of the largest recipients of this activity, had a lot of difficulty, of course, figuring out how they were going to maintain their industrial base without an adequate supply of natural gas. So this was actually very harmful to Germany's economic prospects. And of course, Germany is the manufacturing center, the economic engine of Europe. So this was had a huge, huge impact. So, and now we have Sweden not participating in the investigation and hiding stuff. So this is classic stuff. We knew it smelled bad the whole way through, obviously. But think about the implications of this. We now know, and it's been confirmed from Seymour Hersh's reporting, that the United States openly took out undersea infrastructure. The thing about undersea infrastructure is once you open that Pandora's box, lots of strange things might fly out. Undersea, it's very, very difficult to defend. Lots of things travel undersea. Major conduits of natural gas, major conduits of oil, major conduits of electricity coming from one continent to the other, or one island nation to another, or from wind platform areas back to the mainland, or internet and communications cables of all variety. There's lots of things strung along the ocean floor. So now that it's kind of open season, this is a big deal. And so Seymour is writing here about the fact that there's this exercise and that the Biden administration went back and forth and really thought it through. And they wanted to be sure that they would be able to do it in a way where it wouldn't be able to be directly laid back at their feet. Now, obviously, anybody who knows anything about how much of a bathtub the ocean is or the sea is in that particular area, knowing that it would have been nearly impossible, given the level of monitoring by NATO forces, would have been nearly impossible for Russia to have snuck in any sort of acid into that and get it done. Doesn't, obviate the idea that potentially a very small boat, with just lowering down, it's not very deep there, right? They could have lowered down just the right explosives. But it's always not what is said, it's also what isn't said in these stories. There's the sins of omission and commission. The omission is, what do you leave out? So what was interesting was 2 months after the Nord Stream pipelines blew up, finally, some firm or a TV station just lowered a camera down, and we finally saw some pictures of what was going on down there. Obviously, if this was a legit crime scene, they would have sealed the area off, and we would have had pictures and investigations that would have happened within minutes, maybe a day at the most. No data, no evidence, no components. Nobody took water samples to find out what tag-ins might have been in any sort of explosives that were used. There were no components found, right? Which could tell you a lot. If it was a component of a Mark 54 torpedo, that would tell you one thing. If it was a component of a Russian military component, it would tell you something else, right? So there was this deafening silence around it. It was just this big shrugging, with the New York Times helpfully coming out going, we're pretty sure this has all the earmarks of something Russia might do. And then they didn't do any investigation. And so thankfully we have Seymour Hersh coming in and talking about this. And so as we go through this, he takes us through all the way of the planning, when it started, who was involved. He's got the players all laid out here. And my faith is such that if Seymour Hersh is taking the time to write this stuff down, he's done the legwork, and I trust him that he actually has the goods on this stuff. They've got the NSA in here, and obviously as we come all the way down to the bottom of this, there was the operation itself and what happened. And so this is all now, I think, pretty well conclusively wrapped up. And what's interesting here, he writes in the fallout section, though, in the immediate aftermath of the pipeline bombing, the American media treated it like an unsolved mystery. Who could it be? Russia was repeatedly cited as the likely culprit, spurred on by calculated leaks from the White House, but without ever establishing a clear motive for why they would self-sabotage. Why wouldn't, if Russia wanted to stop gas flowing to Germany, they just turn a valve and that's the end of it? Why would they take the risk and the operational exposure of blowing these things up in the middle of the ocean? Very, very odd. A few months later, however, when it emerged that Russian authorities had been quietly getting estimates for the cost to repair the pipelines, the New York Times described the news as complicating theories about who was behind the attack. Thanks, New York Times. Glad to know you've totally given up on journalism, totally caring about what the truth is, totally caring about anything except toting water for various policies and aims of the government. That's not the fourth estate. You're just part of the third estate now. All right. So with that, I think we have to just get our minds and hearts around the idea that this thing did happen. This is an extraordinarily complicating feature of our landscape now. If it turns out that other nations now feel emboldened to make undersea assets a target, this highly, highly, highly damaging to your life, to my life. It was a bad move. And honestly, I wish the New York Times and other press would actually do their jobs and hold feet to the fire, because these are the sorts of things that I would like to have some say in. I'm not sure that anybody who was voted for from my state had any particular say in this. So I feel like if I had a vote in this, I would have said, no, you know what? Let's not open that Pandora's box. Lots of bad things could fly out from that. All right. Thanks so much for listening. Big, big report. Make sure that you read that report by Seymour Hersh, and it'll give you a sense of where we are in the story. Why? Because you need to know that with leadership like this, who needs enemies? Bye-bye.